Hey guys, so today we're going to be making a variable typographic animation. It's super simple. It's literally just a couple keyframes. And I know I say that every video, but genuinely this is for how simple it is, you get a great output. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy the tutorial and I'll see you guys there.
Just before I get into the tutorial, I'd just like to let you guys know that I do have a set of online assets that you guys can download. It's mainly Photoshop mockups and it's just meant to help elevate your work and just take it to that next level of professionalism. You can go check out my Gumroad in the description. Everything is free and publicly available for you guys to use and take advantage of. So yeah, let's get into the tutorial. Yeah, initially what you want to do is you want to start off with a sketch and make sure that you've got your design sorted before you actually go into After Effects. That's number one. These are called style frames and they're essentially our keyframes. So all we're going to be animating is this element and then we're just going to be duplicating it. So an important thing with the variable type is that because there's multiple width, you're going to want to ensure that you take that into account in your animation. This is just a rough sketch. Obviously the kerning's not perfect. You can see there's a bit too much tension here, but yeah, they're all on the grid and they're all roughly at a similar width. And it's important that we kind of like make these points anchored to the grid, so that they're not kind of shifting about too much and they feel locked into their grid module. So I am using a typeface called ROM. You can find it at ABC Foundry. It's just a trial font. I'm pretty sure you can go download it from their website, or you could even request that. Yeah, you can get variable fonts on something like Google Font. There's some great stuff on there. Go check out Inter. Yeah, so here's Google Fonts. If you go down here to variable, you've got a bunch of things here. This one's kind of cool, but anyway, let's get into the tutorial. So I'm going to copy that and I'm going to go into my After Effects. I'm going to make a new composition that is based off of this. So 1200 and our grid is 60 pixels. So if we make a 1200 grid, let's set this to something like 5 seconds. If we go into preferences or settings and go into grids, we can see that that's already locked into 60. I'm just going to make this a mid gray just so it's not too ugly. So now if we go into view, show grid, and we want to go view snap to grid. Why is that? So if we do Shift Alt Command T, that brings up our text layer. And let's just type out flow state. We're going to select everything and just click this little button here, which is going to make it all caps. So what's the size of this? What's the biggest one? So we have our width. If we pull this out and you pull this out, we can see that this has a width of that and that. Okay, so they have the same width, which is great. So if we just grab this, so it's 2000. So this is 2035 by 360. So if we go back into our After Effects and we make a second composition of 2035 by 360, is that right? So we paste that in and we go and take this and just drop this into this composition now. So we can just copy our weight over like so, just pasting that in there, and we can just align this like so. We're just going to align it centrally and it looks like we need a little bit more width. So I'm actually just going to drop the weight a little bit until it kind of feels right. So just going to drop this down till it feels right. We need it so this horizontal section here is aligned. Yeah, that should do just about maybe a couple more. Let's see how that is. Okay, so that's perfect now. So this is now perfectly aligned. If you watch my previous tutorial, you'll see why I actually let this clip on the edge. You'll find out in a sec why I do that. If we go back into Figma, we can see that we go from our compressed font to our extended font. So we start off from light and then go to heavy, and then this one is condensed, and then this is our compressed. So it's actually quite a simple transition. So if we go back into our After Effects and we can set this all to compressed, but start with light, and then we can go regular. Here we can go book, and then our next one would be medium, and so on and so on. So just making these transition until we get to the maximum weight, which would be black. So we have light, regular, book, medium, bold, heavy, and then once we get to heavy, we need to our bold, so this needs to be our heavy, and then this one needs to be our black, and then this one here we're going to go to a condensed. As you can see here, we now move to the next font, which is condensed, from compressed to condensed, and then we're going to make that the heaviest weight to make sure we get enough contrast between these two characters. And then this one, this is going to be our extended, or is it our expanded? This is our extended now. So we need ABC ROM extended black, which looks like it's this one, and we're going to set that to black. Okay, so we're going to make sure that this is aligned to the edge, like so, and making sure that all of our characters are fairly well kerned. I'm just going to do a quick bit of kerning. This is also a good opportunity to make sure that this hits that edge. So we're going to do that. When you're kerning, you always start from the left and go to the right if you can. So I'm just going to be using this to slightly kern all of these characters. And you know, if you've got a good typeface, you shouldn't need to do too much kerning, which is something to consider. So the better the typeface is drawn, the easier it's going to be to use and the less problems you're going to run into. So I'm just going to make this slightly to the right, and then the same here, just move this slightly over, and it's good to zoom out to make sure that everything's well spaced. And then for the rest, we're just going to kern or increase the width between these two letters. So we just go like that, and then we can move across. We can just make sure that this is hitting that edge best we can, making sure that clips right against the edge like that. And that's our first state. Okay, so we can copy and paste that now, and we can go, so we're going to go all the way back to light, and we're going to go from this side now. Okay, brill. So we have our two different states. This is our first state. We start from here and then we go to our second one. So I'm going to call this 1, and that's already called 2, which is great. Select both of our text layers and go create shapes from text, which basically just vectorizes it now. So we can turn these off, and After Effects has already done that for us. So we want to select our initial state, and we're going to bring that to the top. And then in our search bar here, we're going to type in path like so, and we're just going to select all of these keyframes, and you can just hold and drag down like so. Then in our second shape layer, we're going to do the exact same thing. So just pressing enter there, it's already typed in, and just holding and dragging down like that, making sure that we've selected everything. So we can pull everything across here, and then we can go 1 second along. And for this, I'm just going to pull this all the way up because we don't really need that right now. And it's literally just a matter of selecting the corresponding shape and just pasting in the keyframes like so. So for stuff like this, you can't actually paste them both in at the same time because there's obviously two vectors going on here as there's a hole in the letter. So you actually have to select the individual section first. This is the outlined bit and this is the inside. So it's just as simple as that. So every keyframe, you just want to select the corresponding letter. I'm just going to do this across everything, and I'll come back to you once I've finished. Okay, so once you've finished, you should get something that looks like this, which is great. This is what we're after. This is the type of effect we want. So I'm just going to duplicate this across a little bit in terms of the keyframes. So we're going to do one with a constant transition between all the letter forms, which is probably our easiest type of animation. So we're going to select everything here and then just copy and paste that across like that. And we're going to do that a couple times like so, and then right click on our keyframe and then go down to keyframe assistant and select easy ease. We can then go into our graph editor, make sure that you're editing the speed graph, and we can select everything and then just pull this in and pull that in like so. And then if we go back, we're going to get an animation like this, which is super fluid. It's quite nice. You could also turn on some motion blur if you want it to be a bit more engaging. I'm actually going to drop the speed to something a bit more smooth. I might even pull it in a little bit more so it's a little bit more dynamic. And you just want to make sure there's a roughly even distance between these middle points. If you're at the seconds, you can see that the graph doesn't perfectly peak there. So if you're making hard cuts between stuff, it can be problematic. But yeah, this is main or kind of pre-comp, and we can then go and drop this in here like so, and just snapping that there like so. And then we can press this button, which is going to allow us to essentially let those things peek out again. So seems like there's been some sort of problem where I haven't aligned this correctly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into our composition, and I'm just going to add another 60 on everything, which should just give us another grid module. And if I do that correctly, everything should line up nicely now. So I'm going to copy and paste that and bring it down, copy and paste it again. I'm just going to pull it underneath as well, pulling it underneath, and make sure that you've got snapping enabled. And you can also go to snap to grid, which will allow you to snap everything like Illustrator and stuff like that. So one more time, I'm going to pull that down, and you can see that we now have a perfect distribution. And you can then select this. We can go along a couple of frames by doing Shift Command and then arrow key, and we can just repeat that like so. So you can also change the offset a little bit. So if you wanted something a little bit smoother, you could move along to 5.5 milliseconds or 5 milliseconds, and that will just give you a bit of a smoother transition or less delay between those different modules, which I think is probably going to look a bit nicer like so. That's super nice. So I'm going to go 1 second here, and then I'm going to move along to our 4th second, and fingers crossed everything lines up nicely. If we go to our 3rd second here and then select that, we can then pull this in like so, and we should have a 2-second looping animation. And then what we can do is we can copy this like so, and we can just delete everything in here, drop in our main composition, and we can go composition settings, set this to 2 seconds, and then it's just a matter of snapping this like that. I'm sure this will be fine for now. And we can make this something like 16 seconds. You could also loop this out with a quick expression, but I'm just going to do this for the tutorial because it's a bit easier, a bit more accessible for you guys. So we can see that we now have a nice looping animation that goes on for 16 seconds using variable type. Super nice. Yeah, hope you guys have learned something, and I'll see you in the next one.